Good morning, our presenter and participant. Welcome to the virtual Viettiso International Conference 2021. On behalf of the organizing committee, we would like to thank you so much for your participation and contribution to our annual presenter and participant. Welcome to the virtual Viettiso International Conference 2021. On behalf of the organizing committee, we are Lê Thị Thúy Hà and Trần Thị Diệu Hiền as a presentation moderator. We are delighted to see all of you in live of virtual present today, especially in the 60-minute workshop parallel live oral presentation. We do hope that all of you will be able to have some valuable knowledge and experience as takeaway following the talk. Before the presentation, there are a few considerations in case you have any question or concern about presentation. Please feel free to leave them in the task box for parallel section so that we can gather the question for easy response in the 5-10 minutes Q&A section. We gladly welcome Associate Professor Melody Elliott and Associate Professor Catherine Cheetham in this parallel live oral presentation, which is entitled A Foundation for Extensive Reading Success. About our presenter, Melody Elliott is an associate professor at Tokai University, Japan, with over 20 years of teaching experience. Her educational interests include extensive reading, ESP, and content-based instruction. Catherine Cheetham has over 20-year experience in EFL, ESL. She is currently teaching at Tokai University. Her main interests are extensive reading, motivation, and material development. Please welcome Melody Elliott and Catherine Cheetham.
Thank you very much. We're happy to be here.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. So good morning. Today we are talking about graded readers, which are simplified texts intended for language learners to provide students with the ability to self-direct their own learning by allowing them to decide what, how, and when to read. However, just giving them access to graded readers and e-readers doesn't necessarily guarantee that students are going to be motivated and develop autonomous learning. So as language learning becomes increasingly dependent on technology, extensive reading practices have followed suit. So now there are powerful online learning management systems such as Ambreeder and X-Reading, which are becoming indispensable tools to track student progress throughout their extensive reading journey. But the useful features of these systems can only be utilized if teachers and students know how to take advantage of them. So how an institution establishes, maintains, and invests in its reading program can drastically affect the outcomes. So for today, first, we'd like to start with a general overview of extensive reading at our university, both before and during the pandemic. And next, we'd like to talk about, give a review of graded readers and the different management options, including an option for those wishing to build their own reading management system. We will give tips on how to create and sustain what we call a learner community for graded readers. And then we'd like to explore some problems that we have encountered and some practical solutions that we have found. And afterwards, we would like to answer any questions and to discuss some of the approaches you might have for graded reading at your own institutions. So first, let's take a look at an overview of extensive reading at Tokai. So Tokai University has 7 different campuses, and it has about 29,000 students. at our main campus called Shonan. And the campus is located about an hour from Tokyo. And Catherine and I belong to the Language Education Center, which teaches required English courses to university freshmen and sophomores. And also we have a lot of elective courses. So we teach all the students at the university. Our main campus has about 140 English teachers, and they're spread out over about 500,000 square meters. So it's a big campus, and it makes it kind of challenging for us to promote extensive reading. Our program started out as a project 19 years ago by our predecessors, but now our program has gotten considerable support from the administration, and it has become an important part of our language curriculum. So this shows the color coding that we use for our graded readers at Tokai. So all the graded readers are ranked based on the number of headwords. Now this is our own color coding system, and we designed this in order to incorporate all the different publishers. So every publisher has a slightly different system, and so we made ours to encompass everything. Just to give an example, we wanted to do this to make sure that different level classes would have access to books at an appropriate level. So say for a basic class, they would have a combination of books from pink, white, and yellow in their class. So basically up to 300 headwords. And the green level here is over 2,000 headwords, which is above the average student level. And you see the color coding system here, and we also have tabs that we have put on all of our graded readers that match. So how are the books used by teachers? Extensive reading is not part of the required English language curriculum, but many teachers do incorporate it into their classes. So for required classes, it can make up to 20% of the grading criteria. Realistically, most teachers are located about 10%. We have three main ways for students to read, and it's up to the classroom teacher to decide which way they would like to use graded readers at the start of the semester. So one option is for students to use the main library, or LNAVI, which is part of our Language Center's Learning Commons. So basically the students go to the books. Another option is for the teacher to use the mobile library, which is to bring the graded readers to the classroom in a shopping cart. And in this case, the graded readers come to the students. And teachers can have students read in the classroom or take the books home. In 2003, we started our mobile library with a goal to encourage and facilitate extensive reading. And so the reason for the mobile library was to, as I said before, make sure that books could be selected for the appropriate class level. And the consensus from our research is that students are much more likely to read if the books are brought directly to them. So at present, our mobile library has over 19,000 books with over 2,000 different titles. And this is in addition to the books in the main library and the Learning Commons. And on average, this is before the pandemic, 30 teachers in 75 classes use the carts, the mobile library carts, each semester. And you can see Catherine here in the picture showing our mobile library carts. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to Catherine.
Hi there, everybody. I'm just going to carry on from where Melody left off. Just hold on a second here as I set up. So Many of you might have heard of Ambreeder or are currently using it. For those that are not familiar with this system, Ambreeder is an online reading management system which enables both teachers and students to track their reading progress. So it is simply comprehension questions are given to assess whether the book was read or not, with a short timed 10-item quiz. Students can use their smartphones actually to access the site if necessary, and instant feedback like game features and which is included, as well as a public leaderboard, students' progress bar, level promotion, and stamp collection applications that show the students their progress. And I'm going to go into that in a little bit, showing you the site. But first of all, in 2014, Ambreeder was implemented at the university. We must admit at the beginning, it was a challenge for us, but since over that time, about 17,000 students have registered for the program. We credit Ambreeder with really changing our extensive reading program. Not only do we have more reliable numbers, but we also have concrete evidence to show the university of our students' progress and recognition of that. In 2018 was our biggest year, as we expanded to 4 other campuses, which continued to grow until the pandemic, which has now kind of suspended our program as we have limited our usage of Ambreeder numbers, just because we can only offer it to a few classes because of the access that we have to e-readers through the main library. So I'm going to give a brief demonstration of how to use Ambreeder. If you could just bear with me for a minute as I have to change my showing here. Whoops. So I have actually already logged into, I've already actually logged into the site, and this is Ambreeder from the administration perspective. And as you can see, we've kind of customized it a little bit. There is here our university logo. This is basically what it looks for me. I can make changes in the settings. I can actually limit which books are going to be used and viewed by the students. And I can set this for all the teachers in the program. So let me just first of all look at what a quiz would look like. What a quiz would look like, or not a quiz, but how the students go in and look for a book. So depending on what I want to look for, I'm going to, maybe I read the book Jane Eyre. So I'm going to type in Jane Eyre. And you can see these are all the books that are in the system with quizzes. They are all the, from Macmillan to Johann Lader to Scholastics, Penguin, and also Penguin RH, which is a new series, which is really good. So we can see all these varieties of these books. We can also see as well the differences between different years that they were published. So Oxford has 4 different book covers depending on how old your book is in your collection. So it's really helpful for students that they can view all these different books. As well with that, you will notice that there's a reading level difference. So with Macmillan, the reading level for this book is 4, where if we go to the Oxford, it's a reading level 9. So this really gives students a variety, I think, that is not offered in a lot of other programs, because they can take books from several different publishers or read the book from several different publishers and then take that quiz. So, and as you can also look, we can choose by reading levels. We can also search books by publishers as well. So there's so many publishers that have quizzes within the Ambreeder system. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to return here, and I'm going to show you what one of my classes looks like. This is just an example. These students are actually, I can't show you the real student log, so I've just made some fake students here, and we can look at how they are doing. So what I have is I have 3 students here. One student, student number 2, has not taken a quiz. this semester at all. But if I click on his information, we can see that we have a book cover here. This means that the student actually read previously in another class, maybe last semester. So that's kind of an interesting point. In addition, we can see this student here, student number 3, they read the Jane Eyre tech book and they passed the book because the cover is here. I can also look that this student also took a quiz on Malala, and she did not pass that quiz. So they do not get any rewards for that. If I go back, whoops, sorry. We can also look at this student's record, and they actually passed 2 quizzes, and we can see 2 book covers, but they did not pass this book on Usain Bolt. And as they keep reading, we can see the word count grows, and that will be accumulated. The goal for this class is to read 150,000 words, and so far the student in this class has only reached just over 2,000. So as the semester progresses, they will eventually grow in what they read. So I'm just going to actually show you one more student from another class, and this student, as an example, sorry, I have to go to their record here, sorry. So this student actually read in a class and started actually during the pandemic. So they were reading on their own, not in a class. And as you can see, this is the full history of all the books that they have read. And it's quite extensive. The student actually read pretty low-level books to start with. And as they have progressed, the books have become a little bit more difficult. And that was actually in 1 year, the student had read that amount of books, which I think is pretty good. And now this semester, the student has read this, and it seems to have, the student is on a kind of a quest to read a lot of nonfiction title books. As we can see here, I can see that all the books that this student has passed and how they are doing. And so far already in total, the student has read over 493,000 words already in the time that they have started. So it keeps accumulating as long as they have joined this program. Each year they keep accumulating the books. They cannot read the same book twice or generally the same title. So if they read a book on Jane Eyre, they cannot read another book on Jane Eyre. It will not allow them to do that. So it kind of prevents them from cheating in other ways as well. So as we see, this student started probably at a level 0 and now has moved up to a level 4 in their reading in 1 year. So that's quite a jump. And I would imagine that this student is working really hard. And as you can see, they are pretty much reading 1 book a day, which I think is really great for them to do that. So they're on their way. So that's basically the the Ambreeder system. I'm going to show you another system in a few minutes where we can take a quiz, which is very similar. So I don't want to kind of waste our time by taking so many of these kinds of quizzes, but let me hop back to our presentation for you. Oops, sorry. And so one point I want to go over is that during the COVID era, our classes have been held remotely for the last 4 semesters since spring 2020. This meant that we had to adapt and consider alternatives for our extensive reading program for some ESP classes. Our ebook collection in the main library was not adequate and would not be able to sustain the traffic or the needs of our students. So we had tried this before during kind of a summer session, but during the pandemic, we have adopted X-Reading. So like Ambreeder, X-Reading is a reading management system, but it also includes virtual graded reader library. So X-Reading, unfortunately, requires a paid subscription to use. So this system actually, X-Reading has over 1,200 graded readers from various publishers. The library has categorized from beginner to advanced level books based on the headword count of various publishers. There's also an option for audio narrations of many titles. And to read, students simply select the book that they would like to read. And as you can see, here is an example of what that text looks like on the screen. After reading the text, students are given a 5-question quiz to assess their reading comprehension. So this is a little bit shorter than the Ambreeder quiz, which is 10 questions. As with Ambreeder, teachers can also track their student progress in X-Reading. Assignments and goals can be set depending on the course requirements. Restrictions can be placed on reading levels to ensure that students read at an appropriate level. Results of their reading speed and completion of the comprehension quiz can also be tracked. So I'm going to actually give a very brief demonstration of how X-Reading works from a student perspective. So if you could just wait a second, I have to actually log on as a student to the site. So I'm just actually going to stop sharing for a second. If you can. All right. Am I still sharing? Sorry. Oh, sorry, something went wrong. Okay, so this is the X-Reading site. I have logged in as a student. So I'm going to look at, this is a choice. I can add any story that I want to what I wish to read. As you can see, the publishers are listed here on the side. And also the reading level is also placed here as well. So I've decided for this class, and just for the demonstration purposes, I'm going to choose a very, very simple book. Hopefully my students wouldn't be reading this, but as you can see, they're very easy. But just because of the time that we are here, I want to just make it a very short time. So I'm actually going to read this book with us today called Sharks. I know that you're all very excited about this. So it's actually only 100 headwords. There's only 63 words in this book. It's very, very minimal. Hopefully my students aren't reading it. It also says the type of English. This is British English. As you can see down here, this one has American English. So they might have slight difference. We can also see the genre. In this case, it's nonfiction. And we can also see that this one has an audio available, and that audio is 42 seconds. So it's just something. So let's read the book together and take the quiz. And it just says start reading. And here it comes. So I want to push next. And here it is. Now I can play the audio as well. This is a very, very short book. As you can see, sharks are in the sea. They are big sharks. There are little sharks. This is a great white shark. This is a hammerhead shark. This is a blue shark. And this is a tiger shark. Sharks have rows of teeth. If a tooth falls out, another one comes. Sharks eat fish. Some sharks eat seals and penguins. Sharks have fins. They can swim fast. Maybe not the best book to sell X-Reading, but anyways, you can get a picture. We just want to see that we have a very, very short book so that we don't.
Sharks. Sharks are in the sea. There are big sharks. There are little sharks. This is a great white shark. This is a hammerhead shark. This is a blue shark. This is a tiger shark. Sharks have rows of teeth. If a tooth falls out, another one comes. Sharks eat fish. Some sharks eat seals and penguins. Sharks have fins. They can swim fast.
So it depends. You can actually shut off the audio for these. You can make some restrictions for your students. I understand that in some places, they prefer the students not to listen to the audio because the students already excel in listening skills and they need more reading. So that just depends on how you set up your program. You can also restrict them so they can't read books like sharks. So there are options that you have, just like with Ambreeder, of putting many restrictions and managing what students will read. So hopefully, whoops, and we are going to close this as that gives that. And then we can now take a quiz. So we can either read it again, return the book, or take a quiz, and also rate the quiz if we want. So we can take the quiz. Okay, start quiz. Sharks live in the river. I'm going to say false for that one. There are big and little sharks. That's true, I think. The shark's tooth falls out, another one comes. That's true. Sharks eat whales. I don't think so. Maybe, was that covered? I can't remember. No. Sharks have fins. Yes, that's true. And then I finished it, and I can either rate the book or rate it later. I'm just going to say rate it later. And I can see I passed the quiz. That's great. I did it 100% on that quiz. I've done that. So it doesn't actually tell the students, well, actually it gives the reading speed as well, the reading time here for the students of how long it took them to do that and how many words are calculated. From the teacher's perspective, I can get that information as well. So sometimes we can see of whether a student read like a really long book in a very, very short period. That would mean that necessarily the student might not pass that quiz because it would suspect them of cheating. So this is really an excellent system for checking that out and to maintaining honesty within this system. So that is one of the pluses of this. Let me go back to our PowerPoint. All right, so I'm just going to continue on about our system. So in terms of ebooks versus physical books and what reading management system works best, that depends on several factors, but primarily the ability to build on the resources you have is really key. So for us, because we already had an extensive reading collection of graded readers, Ambreeder was the logical choice for us. Ambreeder is free and maintained by the Extensive Reading Foundation. We invested a lot of time in the system with our manuals and videos, which we will go into detail later. In addition, we inserted a QR code which takes students directly to the quiz in every book in our library. We hope that when we return to the classroom, Ambreeder will be widely used again, because we also feel, and our research that we are presently working on shows, that using physical book compared to an ebook results in students reading more. At present, Ambreeder is still used with a collection of ebooks from the main library. However, this is not enough to sustain all our needs. Building a library takes a lot of time and a lot of money, not only to build, but also to maintain. So with X-Reading, subscriptions were a little bit expensive, and we sought special permission from the departmental budgets to pay for them. Since the pandemic hit, it was too late for us to ask students to purchase subscriptions, as textbook orders and caps had already been met. However, with adequate planning, students could pay for the subscriptions. website lists the monthly subscription at about $6 US, and there are longer subscriptions available with special offers. With X-Reading, it should be noted that some publishers like Oxford have created their own reading management system, and books can no longer be accessed through Ambreeder. It is uncertain if this will be the trend of other publishers, but as we have found when investing time and resources into a management system, it is important to consider not only its longevity, but also whether it can fulfill your educational needs, especially long-term. Although X-Reading was partially able to fulfill our needs during the pandemic, we felt the quality of readers and selection of nonfiction titles did not meet our needs for ESP courses. However, what we really liked about the system was it showed clear evidence of students reading with reading speed, checkout and check-in times for books. Although Ambreeder has ways to assess cheating, it does not provide necessarily that clear evidence. Like Ambreeder, it provides useful data collection, but with additional features such as reading speed and breakdown of book usage data. So as an alternative, there are sites that offer free online graded readers, such as this site, which is sponsored by the Extensive Reading Foundation. Books are leveled using the Sapphire scale, and many are compatible with Ambreeder. Although there are several sites that offer free reading materials, some caution needs to be exercised. Using free materials from any site requires constant monitoring. As we have all experienced links and sites that lead to dead ends, this is not an ideal learning experience for students. In addition, some sites may contain unwanted advertisement that institutions may not wish to be associated with. Melody?
Okay, yep, thank you very much. I'm going to continue from there. Okay, so let's talk about creating a learner community. So once you've got your graded reader system in place, how do you get students to read more and become autonomous learners? This is sort of the holy grail of extensive reading. So first of all, what is an extensive reader learning community? Well, we discovered it's an environment where students can get motivated, they can get support and advice on extensive reading, they can share their experiences and get information on extensive reading. So, we agree with Shibata, who's done important extensive reading research, that one way to nurture this habit is through the creation of this community. In general, extensive reading approaches rely on learners to be highly motivated, but obviously this is not always the case. Sometimes on the part of the teachers, persuasive tactics can be required. Teachers can promote reader motivation by including opportunities for students to succeed on a consistent basis and by encouraging student autonomy and collaboration. So we have 3 tips for creating a learner community. We call this FAST. So facilitate, socialize, and acknowledge. So first, talking about facilitate. So at the start of the term, it's important to give students direction by setting reading goals. And the goals need to be attainable, and they need to reflect the actual language abilities of the students. Furthermore, it's important to show and make students understand the overall benefits associated with extensive reading. One option could be to show students a video on the joys of reading. But regardless of whatever approach you take, the most important thing is consistency. So the teacher needs to provide consistent feedback. The students need to read consistently. They need encouragement to read consistently. They need consistent reminders, and they need coaxing to read more. So by monitoring what students are reading, either through Ambreeder or in class checks, the students are going to be encouraged to read more. So another tip for creating a learner community, you can bring the books to class. We've discovered through our research that bringing the books to class raises the likelihood that students are actually going to do extensive reading. Here in this picture, you can see one of our aviation courses, and this is the students returning old books, putting the cards back, and choosing new books that they want to read. So remember, we use this cart system in order to ensure that the students are reading at an appropriate level, because the teacher is bringing the cart with the correct level of books to the class. If students are reading above or below their level, it's very likely that they're going to become either disinterested if it's below their level, or demotivated if the book is too high. And additionally, we found that the mobile library is a great way to steer students to specific content for their courses. So this photograph, as I mentioned, is from our aviation students. So our students have an intensive TOEFL prep course that they take in the spring semester, their first semester at university. They need to get their TOEFL target in order to go to the US to do study abroad and learn how to fly airplanes. So they need to achieve their TOEFL target in a very short period of time. So for their mobile cart, we have restricted their titles to nonfiction. Biology, history, geography, the same sorts of titles that you find on the TOEFL test. In addition to perhaps tailoring the carts for the students, you can also give 10 to 15 minutes in class for silent reading time as a way to hook the students. And even though this does not necessarily meet the criteria for extensive reading, it can be beneficial for low-level learners, right? Extensive usually means outside of the classroom. But by giving them a few minutes, 10 to 15 minutes to read in the class, it can really help motivate low-level learners and can be a good way to initiate extensive reading. Another way is through socialization. So we have discovered that the graded readers are also a chance for students to socialize with each other. So students often recommend books that they have read to each other. Many teachers require mini book reports in pairs or small groups each week. And we've discovered, thanks to the pandemic, that you can even do this in Zoom. So students report to their classmates, giving a brief summary of the book. They discuss whether they liked it or they disliked it, and how many stars would they give the book. So each of our books in our mobile library also contains this rating sheet where students can rate the book out of 5 stars and just leave a one-word comment. And students look at that when they're selecting a book. Ambreeder does a lot to acknowledge achievements through the stamp collection and the progress bars and the leaderboard that Catherine showed you. And this adds a little competition to reading, which some students really respond to. So it's important not just to single out the top reader, but also the most improved reader or the most consistent reader. So this shows you what the leaderboard looks like on Ambreeder. So you can see in the past 30 days, students that are the top reader in their level. And it really, students get a kick out of seeing their name or their university's name in the list. And by incorporating extensive reading into course grading, obviously, it can also reinforce its importance. So that's another way you can acknowledge it. So as I said, some teachers allocate 10% to that. And a third way we have promoted extensive reading is through the creation of this contest. So it's called the Ambreeder Challenge. It's open to all students at any of Tokai's campuses. And the old goal was 100,000 words or 40 books with Ambreeder quizzes passed. Students were recognized at a lunch party. They received a certificate and they received donated prizes from the publisher. Before Ambreeder, we used to only have about 30 students a semester who would complete the challenge. However, once we started using Ambreeder, a lot more students completed the challenge. In 2019, in fact, we had 180 students, which left us very pleasantly surprised. So needless to say, we've had to ask for more money for these ceremonies and for the lunch, but it did get the attention of the university and our overall budget has increased. So this is a photo taken after one of the lunch parties. This is the director of the center. These are the students with their book prizes that they've gotten, which the publishers donated to us. In 2018, we revamped our ceremony, our challenge, and we introduced new criteria. So from 2018, it is 150,000 words. And we introduced this new tiered system of bronze, silver, gold, emerald, ruby, and diamond bookworms. And we did this in order to encourage students to read throughout their 4 years at university, not only in the semester where their teacher happens to use graded readers. So in the past, with the old challenge, we had students who read until 100,000 words and then they just stopped. They never continued reading. But with the new system, it's more flexible and it can continue from year to year. So students can see their achievements improve. And this is our pride and joy. We also created in 2018 our own little logo and pins to represent each of the levels. And we also got an embosser for the seals on the certificates. So when students read a particular level in a year and they are honored in the challenge, they receive these collectible lapel pins and they get this certificate with the matching seal. They're invited to the lunch. They get recognized for their achievements. All right, so let's talk about some practical management tips. One of the biggest problems for us was how to make teachers and students aware of the graded reader program, and also how to get them to understand the importance of graded readers and extensive reading, and how they could be utilized instead of just seeing it as a time placeholder in the classroom. We used to photocopy materials and put it in teachers' mailboxes, but we found that it was, number one, time consuming, and number two, it wasn't very effective. They weren't being utilized effectively on the part of the teachers or on the part of the students. So one of the solutions that we found is media coverage. So our university has a campus newspaper. So we started inviting a reporter from the campus newspaper to attend the challenge and report on the ceremony. So the reporter does a student profile, interviews with the top readers. The article about the challenge is published in the campus newsfeed and the newspaper. It appears on the campus bulletin board that is catchy and prominent and easily updated. So this makes students more eager to read so that they can participate in this ceremony and get their picture in the newspaper. Another solution we found is online resources. So we maintain a teacher website with information and resources, the ones we used to photocopy. We also maintain a student website with similar information, resources, and links for students. This is particularly useful for self-motivated students who may not be in a class where the teacher has chosen to use graded readers. So for a short time, we tried to use YouTube videos created by other institutions about extensive reading and Ambreeder to inform our teachers and students about the benefits, but the problem was that the programs were all slightly different, which caused confusion. And of course, with YouTube, videos can suddenly appear and disappear. So we decided it was time to create our own online videos. In 2017, we hired 2 students to help us create 2 animated whiteboard videos. These videos were made using VideoScribe to make storyboards. And the catchy graphics tend to hold the students' interest and are also informative. And the students are very impressed when they find out that their peers created the video. To host these videos, we use Vimeo. Vimeo is a streaming and sharing video provider. When you make an account, you get 5 gigabytes for free. The uploaded videos are free from advertisements and they're password protected, which is important when presenting to students and possibly if they have sensitive information. And it also provides stats and the number of views. So
sorry, Melly, you have 5 minutes left. Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, sorry, you have 5 minutes left.
Okay. So Catherine, do you want to skip the video?
Sorry,
Okay,
yes, just skip, yeah, maybe.
Okay, so we were going to show you let's just show 30 seconds of the video, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe not. Okay, we're going to skip the video. Catherine, I'll turn it over to you.
Sorry, now we're wasting time. I'm just wondering if we just have time maybe for some Q&A would be better at this point. Would that be okay?
Sorry, Melody, I think video is okay. I think that you will stop at 9:55.
9:55? Okay.
Right. Yes. So I think
For some reason for me, it's not queuing, Catherine. So can you,
it's very interesting.
Yeah.
I think
can you show the video?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm going right in there right now. Sorry. Hold on. Let me share my video.
Why read? The benefits of extensive reading. What is extensive reading? Extensive reading is to read a large amount of text like graded readers. Don't worry. Yes, you will need to read many books. But these books are easy for learners of English. Here is what you need to do to start reading extensively and change your life forever. There are several places where you can find these amazing graded readers. At any Tokai campus library and at the Shonan campus Agora, or through the mobile graded reader cart. Your teacher may bring a shopping cart to class with graded readers. Graded readers are leveled books. There are 10 levels at Tokai. To help you find your level, look at the colored label on the spine of each book. White, pink, and yellow are the lowest levels. Orange, brown, and lime are the intermediate levels. Red, purple, blue, and green are advanced level. You need to choose the book that is right for you. That means you need to find the book that is at your level. When you look at a page, there should only be 3 or 4 words you do not know. If there are more than 4 words you do not know, the book is too difficult. If the book is too difficult or too easy, you need to choose another book. You should not use a dictionary to read. Choose a book that interests you. Chances are, if you aren't interested in it, you will be less likely to read it. You can read anywhere. On the train, in a cafe, in the library, at home. Try to read for at least 15 to 20 minutes at a time each day. After you have finished reading a book, log in to Ambreeder and take the quiz. Taking a quiz is fun and easy. Ambreeder will keep track of all the books you read. This will let your teachers know that you read a book and understood the story. What do you do when you are finished? Simple. Return your book to the library or to your teacher's cart. Select another book and read. So, why should you read Graded Readers? There are many important reasons. Here are a few. First, it builds vocabulary. With Graded Readers, words are repeated several times in a story. This will familiarize you with the word and help you build your vocabulary and help you communicate. Second, it will help you improve your grammar. By reading the sentences, you can learn to use those structures in your speaking and writing.
I'm just going to stop that video there, but you get the idea about what our video is about. And I'm just going to bring up the other slide, sorry, as we finish up. So just one of the issues that we often have is a lot of issues with reading management system and literacy, computer literacy. As the administrator, I often have a lot of issues with students and teachers dealing with this system. So obviously it takes time to teach. And one thing that we have done is brought in a lot of manuals. We've also created more tutorials. Another video as well that we have is about reading at Tokai University and how to use this system. These are very informative, again, created by students. We also use Google or MS Forms to assist with teachers and students' inquiries. As we know that some teachers get very frustrated, they don't know the system enough and they can't always answer the student questions. So we found that using forms like this is very useful and it solves the system, works well with the system. And of course, everything can be exported into an Excel and processed that way. So this is one of the ways that we maintain our system. So right now, we'd just like to open it up very briefly in the last few minutes here to any questions that you might have, and we'll be pleased to answer them for you.
So some people had asked some questions in the chat, which I tried to answer as we went along, but any other questions?
Yes, thank you very much for a great presentation, Melody and Catherine. Now we are happy to receive any question you may have for our presentation. I see the question in chat box from Noma Education. Yes. In the Vietnam context, especially outside the big city, many teachers fear there is not enough time to incorporate ER and fear derivation from mandated curriculum. Any tips, advice to overcome these hurdles?
Yeah, I think
So, go ahead.
I think we have a kind of a similar problems because it's not necessarily within our curriculum that we only have it for those teachers that wish to use it. So it's only actually given 10% that teachers can, within the required programs, allocate to extensive reading. So we hope that it is picked up by a lot of students and then carried on throughout their education, that they become hooked on it. So yeah, it is difficult to start, but I think, as we have said, once you do start using extensive reading, a lot more curriculums then tend to adapt it when they see such success in the program, as we have seen as well. There's more adaptation from our university in using it. Melody, did you have anything to add?
I would just say that, one of the nice things is that because it is extensive reading, that by definition, they're actually supposed to be reading outside of classroom time. So if you're worried about deviating from the mandated curriculum, the nice thing is that this is something that can supplement that curriculum that they can do on their own. And then depending on what you're teaching, you could find a quick way to tie it into the classroom. Like I said, for our listening and speaking classes, we would have students spend 10 minutes once a week talking about a book that they've read in class, 5 minutes each speaker. So it's not using up a lot of class time. The students are reading outside of the class. So that's one way.
Thank you very much, Melody and Catherine. Another question from Phan Thị Hoài, student of the university, and Ms. Lệ Hằng. They wonder how can they access Ambreeder and X reading, and are they free?
The Ambreeder is free to use. So you just can click on the site and it has information for teachers to get an account. You need one person in the university to act as your administrator. So once
what about X reading?
X reading, unfortunately, costs money to use. So it depends. It's about $6 US per month to use for a subscription service. But I would contact X reading and see what rates that you can be given by them.
Okay, and Ms. Hằng also want you to share the link to Ambreeder and X reading, please.
Okay, I'll put those in. Any other questions? I'll put these in while you guys are talking.
Yeah. So any other questions? Someone had asked in the chat, which I answered before, about whether or not it was a computer generated voice or was it a human voice for the audio for the books. I think it depends on the books. So different publishers, some of them actually have people reading it, like our example about sharks. That was a person, not a computer generated voice. But I think it depends on the book. And not 100% of them actually have the audio available, but a lot of them do. So Catherine is putting the links in the box. Any other questions?
Yes, Ms. Hương also want to ask, how did you encourage kids to read extensively after the course? I think we have only 2 minutes left.
Sorry, how do you encourage kids to read extensively after the course? Okay, so by changing our programs with the tiered bookworm program, so that students can keep reading after the class where they first started reading finished. That has gone a long way to allowing students to continue to read. So students can sign up through our Agora. They don't have to use it through a class. So during the breaks, they can continue to read, and they can also continue to read every year while they're students.
Thank you. I see many other questions on chatbot.
Yeah, about the pins, we just found the logo or, found a worm and then.
I'm sorry because due to the limited time, so we cannot include all of the questions in the QA section. So you can email the presenter directly. On behalf of VIC 2021, we would like you all the best with the productive day and meaningful rest of our virtual convention. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.